Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. It's your host, Rising Oblivion. Today, guys, I'm going to be talking about some brand new news when it comes to Persona, Sega, and just sort of ATLUS in general. So, we've all been talking about how it seems like localization and things like that can be kind of hard when it comes to ATLUS's games. For instance, the up-and-coming Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster is about a whole year off of what the Japanese release was for, and same thing with Persona 5 Strikers. Here in the West, we got the whole thing about a year later, which is pretty interesting, as seeing as how we basically have to wait an entire year for the rest of the world to get a localization of this. Well, Sega and both ATLUS have came out talking about how they've realized the importance of a multi-localization and a global release of their video games, which is very important, especially when it comes to not only just the fans and the people who want to play the game, but as a business and as a structure in general, it is very important for them to be able to get their game out to as many people as possible, because it really sucks, especially us here in the West, who, man, it's super hard not to look up some gameplay or look at something before it's even, officially released in our language. I know so many of us have seen so many things about Strikers before Strikers ever released, and it's not too hard to sort of see and understand what's happening, even if it is in Japanese. So I'm going to go over and talk a little bit about here and tell you exactly what they had said from Sega and tell you what this basically means for us in the future. And it's really a good thing. It's a win-win for both people in the situation. So here is a little snippet from the Famitsu magazine, which released May 13th, 2021, and includes an interview from Suji Utsumi, who is Sega's Chief Strategy Officer and General Manager of Asia and Japan Studios. He's previously worked on things like Sony Interactive Entertainment as a manager, a VP of Product Acquisition, and things like that. But basically, this is the top dog over at Sega. And if you don't know, Sega is now having little baby ATLUS under their wing, and they're trying to localize their games. And, you can kind of think Sega for the recent remasters like P4 Golden and, multi-release things like on Switch, and having things like Yakuza Like a Dragon on all the different, was it Stadia or was it Game Pass? Either way, you could basically thank Sega for the most part for pushing a lot of things like that. But this guy talked on Famitsu magazine saying something like, a simultaneous release on multiple platforms would be favorable for our titles. Of course, we have to make adjustments on a per title basis, but we want to be able to have a consensus of global expansion, not only for Sega but also for ATLUS titles as well. Due to the large amount of text, the staff has a lot of work to do, but I believe if the customers are happy by overcoming these difficulties, then it should be worth the effort. So basically what they mean, especially when it comes to ATLUS's titles, is all of the text. So if you've played a Persona game, or heck, just an SMT game just in general, a lot of these really long JRPGs have tons and tons of text. Well, it's already hard enough already to just write for all of the characters, but then somebody over at Sega, maybe Sega, America or something like that, has to localize that, which means they have to go through all of the text and somehow, one way or another, try to convey exactly what the characters are saying, but have to do it for the entire game. Every single bit of dialogue, even the optional dialogue, because you're bound to have somebody out there play every single bit of dialogue of your video game. So basically what he's saying here is the reason why they haven't been doing that localization, the global localization and simultaneous release, is because it's so hard to have to go through all of that text. But he says here that if the customers are happy by the overcoming these difficulties, basically meaning maybe waiting just a little bit longer for a full global release because they have to localize it first before they can even release it there in Japan or anything like that, he says then the effort will be worth it. And I think this is worth it as well, because this means that basically everybody in the world all at one time get to have the full-fledged experience of the game in English and Japanese, and it's not just English as well, it's Spanish, and I believe they also released in French and Italian, a bunch of different things. You just check out Persona 5 Strikers, it's in multiple languages, so there's a lot of success that can happen here, not only for ATLUS and Sega, but man, our experience as the game, playing the game is going to be really good as well. And this might be something that we see for something like, potential further Persona remakes, Persona 3 remake, fingers crossed, or something like a new release like Persona 6 or the new Persona 5 arena game that people have been kind of talking about, potentially it might be real, or new things like SMT 5, which hopefully we get some gameplay this year. And if they are trying to do this, maybe the release date that they show for SMT 5 isn't going to be a release date for Japan, and a year later something for us localized everywhere else. We might see a simultaneous worldwide release for something like SMT 5 or future Personas in the series. So that's really cool and a really good to see thing coming from the company, because I know so many people have been upset about this, and this really brings things down for leaks, because especially whenever a game's already released in Japan, you just basically have to watch what they do. If they start to say something like, oh, we're starting to work on something else for this game, it's like, oh, we're work on the localization. That is how so many things. SMT3 got spoiled for us, the release date here in the West. I also was the one who came out and showed the Persona 5 Strikers leak and talking about how that was going to be releasing when it did release earlier this year, and so many people didn't believe me, but I knew it was legit, because it has to come from Japan first before it comes to being localized everywhere else. They have to start working on it there first. So I was kind of on the gun about that, but this might lead to less leaks, everyone getting it all at the same time, which I think is a brilliant thing for the company and for us as well. But I'm gonna stop dwelling on this for so long though. Moving on, I wanted to talk about some more things with Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is really Sega's full-fledged multi-platform release. If you think about it, it's technically the first one that they have done this for. It was also developed on Xbox and Steam, so it has become Yakuza's biggest title. Yes, even though it's a more recent one, that has become Yakuza's biggest title because it had a global scale release. So basically just showing how successful that was. That has made Sega want to do this with more titles. And I know this is a Persona channel and everything else, but the success of Sega also reflects basically on some success of what's going to be happening with ATLUS. You gotta think it's very intermingled, very intertwined, and they've talked about how they're wanting to work on more bigger title games, which might mean less spin-offs and more bigger games. And I'm a person who is okay with that. ATLUS, for the most part, third parties a lot of their spin-off titles, so that might mean that Sega is trying to focus in more on those bigger releases. And you gotta think, a lot of these games nowadays are huge releases when it comes to their games coming out. Think about all the hype behind Cyberpunk, all the hype behind a new Elder Scrolls game, all of these big companies doing these types of things, a new God of War, a new Breath of the Wild. It's all about hyping up really huge, big titles that are coming out. And what's a huge one that ATLUS has been sort of sitting on? SMT5. This might mean that Sega might try to gear towards getting that SMT5 release date and, maybe throwing them some more money and some more development time and help towards getting something like SMT5 out. They know and they have seen the success of what the Persona series and the SMT series can do for them. And I know for sure that Sega's probably made a good chunk of money for that P4 Golden release and SMT3 releasing both in Japan and over here in the West. So many people have bought this game and so many people have already started to touch up on it. It's no surprise that Sega might be trying to help out ATLUS a whole lot more than what they might have before. And for the most part, that's about it for the video, but I wanted to add in a little snippet that I thought was kind of funny. It said in 2015 that Sega stated that they learned a lot from ATLUS on how to restore trust to the fans. And I found this to be kind of interesting, seeing as how I feel like a lot of people have sort of lost trust with ATLUS over the past couple of years. But I think it's funny, and it talks about how quality, cost, and delivery are so much more important than something like quantity and, just trying to get things out. And they said how a combination of quality-oriented policies reflected in the reviews that they would get from different places. And Sega sort of talks about how, just because things are marketing well and game reviews are going super well, it doesn't mean a game sells well at all. And I think that's super true, especially when it's talking about the whole gaming industry. I mean, a lot of times these sort of things are infatuated, especially when it comes to gaming organizations. Of course, they want to hype up the the games that they talk about because that gives them more to just talk about, and I think that's important to look at. Just because a game seems like it's doing well doesn't mean that it actually is doing well. Yakuza Like a Dragon is something I never really even played or touched upon, but apparently that's like selling just as well and doing just as well as like Persona Strikers has been doing, and it's the most sold Yakuza game. Yakuza's been around for a super long time, and I just thought that'd be something cool to touch upon here as we're finishing up this video, and that yeah, it really goes to show how the game industry can sort of be a double-edged sword to itself. When it's trying to be good, it can also be kind of bad at the exact same time. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. Like, comment, subscribe for more content. I'm going to be having a SMT 3 remaster unboxing here on the channel, and I'll probably be streaming that game here soon as well. I'm trying to get back into streaming. My health has been a little bit bad, so it's kind of hard to sit for long periods of time and stream and stuff. It's a little bit difficult at a certain point, so sorry about that I haven't been streaming so much here recently. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click the bell to be notified when the new video goes up so you can be informed whenever new things like this come about, so you can be right there when the action happens and gain the most information first. So thank you all so much. Become a member today if you want to have some pretty cool emotes and stuff like that. Add more emotes down the line, and you get some cool benefits and things like that to the channel when you become a member. I have different tiers. It's only, I think, 99 cents to become a lower tier member, but it doesn't even matter. Any type of member on the channel, I appreciate so much, and thank you all so much for getting me so close to 2,000 subscribers. We are not very far away from that, guys, but I want to thank you all for that. I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.